Hi, I would like to tell you an experience I had. I usually tell my stories of how I experience Jesus in my everyday life in the Daily Experience series, but I felt like I shouldn't record them in the series because it's a bit out of that box. Um, so I think what I saw was the birth of spirits or souls, or both, I don't know. But let's call them spirits. So I saw an endless field, very much like a purple, pink, dark blue scene, very mystical, something like the forest in Avatar. That's strange and that mystical and fairy tale like. And this place was inside of the Father, and this is the place where the spirits were made. So there were these flower-like plants, or at least they look like plants, and inside of these heads of the flowers, these glowing creatures were made, and it was like as if they were growing there, and they were growing and growing, and after a while they become ripe, or I don't know, but they were flying away, and everything was a bit glowing, but these creatures were glowing more than anything else. And they were flying around the skies as moving stars, and they feel the atmosphere, these little creatures. It looked like when you see the dandelion's dust covering a scene, it looked like that. And this field was inside of the Father, and after these creatures became ripe, they flew away, and I was really sad about it because I had a lot of times when God was teaching me about independence and the fruit of independence, and how it ruined Adam and Eve and the whole humanity. They thought they could be good on their own, and they could make themselves look like God, and take responsibility for themselves, and not staying dependent on God. And I was like, oh, it broke my heart that these little creatures were attached to these plants. They were attached to the field that was inside of the Father. And as they were flying away, it was like, oh, what's wrong? And then I felt the answer immediately, that number one, the atmosphere in which they are flying away is me. Number two, it's my greatest joy to give these spirits independence so that they can choose dependence. And I'm not into the forcing business. I've never done that to Adam and Eve. I never controlled them. I never kept them on a leash. I could, but it never crossed my mind. Love is not like that. Love is rejoicing in complete freedom. And I love when they grow up and fly away. And very soon they will be attracted to me and they return. But it's gonna be their choice of returning, not my control of keeping them here. And he was laughing and enjoying these creatures flying off of these plants and leaving their place of birth. And he was playing with these creatures. These creatures looked a bit like something like impersonal, like as if they were animals, or like, it just, I didn't see them as person or people, but I knew when one of them got closer to me, I could sense that they are actually very different from each other, and they all have their own personalities and everything. I do believe that Jesus is the firstborn among many, and Jesus didn't become someone when he was incarnated. He was Jesus before that, and we are his image. So I think our spirits exist, and when we become bodies, then it's a new form of existence. But who we are, the spirit, maybe the soul, I don't know, is something that is made independently from our bodies. So it's not at the conception that the spirit is born. The spirits are born inside of the Father, and they are of him and in him, and they are of the same substance as him. Actually, they are him. I won't say that everything I think about this is a theological thing that you should preach from now on. I just share this experience, and you can deal with it and put it in the right place. I don't share it to change your theology. I don't share it to change my theology. I just share it to go outside of our boxes and let's dare to share things that we can't say that we have figured it all out. Yeah. So that's my goal with sharing it, not to make a teaching on it. But I really loved the way I've seen the Father's attitude and approach to us revealed. He was playing with this little glowing creatures flying in the air. It was like they looked like bugs from the distance, even though I knew that they were personalities, but from a distance they looked like just bugs. and the Father was playing with them. Sometimes he gathered them, with his large arms, and the density just grew as he put his arms closer and closer to himself. And I've seen him putting his hand around these creatures and collecting them. Once he put all of these creatures back to himself, and then he released them, and they were flying away again. I've seen him breathing them in and breathing them out, as if as if he was breathing in a lot of bugs. I know it sounds disgusting, but it was beautiful because these were these glowing creatures, and they couldn't resist his breathing in, and they couldn't resist his breathing out, and they were flowing out of him, and it was beautiful. Once Jesus and God are interchangeable in this story. Actually, they are one. Jesus said that, so I don't think it's a theological problem, but I've seen this thing that once it was Jesus, once it was the Father, once I couldn't decide. So it was Jesus, maybe, who played with these creatures in a way that he was blowing in the air just to keep these creatures away. And so there was an invisible shield in the air, and these creatures couldn't approach him. They couldn't get closer to him than this shield, and this shield was the resistance in the air made by him blowing. So he was just playing with them. And once I saw these creatures between his arms, and he put his arms together, and then these creatures were really dense, and the density of these creatures were insanely thick. And then he was moving away his hands, and they had more space to fly away, and it was less dense. What have I seen? I've seen these creatures dancing above a lake or some kind of water-like thing, and it was very beautiful that I could see the reflection of these glowing creatures on the sea. I think it was rather a lake, and it looked like purple, blue, I don't know. It was very strange as well. Yeah. Once I saw that this field is with these plants in which these creatures were made, is actually a scarf. So these little glowing creatures were woven together into a scarf. So this field of the birthplace of these spirits was all of a sudden ripped off uh, um, of the floor, and God was dancing with it as if it was a scarf. And it looked very beautiful because these little creatures were glowing, and it looked like a sparkling, glittery scarf as he was dancing with it. And he was laughing and dancing, and sometimes these glitters were falling on him, and he was dancing in the rain of these glitters. And these were glitters. They were little souls flying away from this field while he was playing with this field as a scarf. Yeah, as with a scarf. So it was very beautiful. I'm not sure I can put it right or make it understandable for you. I don't say that you need to adjust your theology to my experience. I think with every experience, the main goal is to stand in awe and stand in wonder and be awestruck and just behold His beauty. Experiences are not for judging others or make ourselves be more spiritual or act more spiritual, or the weirder it is, the more spiritual. It's just about letting Him show something that we couldn't imagine and break our boundaries, break our limitations, and it helps us to see outside of the box. And He's all about that, because if the natural world is that complicated, like you can get lost in any field of science, how much more complicated can be the spiritual realm? Like, you remember when Jesus said that I'm talking about earthly things. What's going to happen to you when I start to talk about the heavenlies? And yeah, it's something that is off the page, something that is outside of our concepts of Him. And He loves sharing stuff like that with us. And of course, it can be dangerous if you really cling to these experiences, because even if you see everything right and your perception is 100% correct, not altered by any wound or any preconceived ideas, your interpretation of it can be very much objective. And when your identity is in seeing and in spiritual experiences, then even if you feel that something is not okay, you don't let go of it, because it's you. You are who sees these things. And even if you sense that, oh, it's not the way I think it anymore, for example, years later, God teaches you some things and you can't agree with certain parts of your previous experiences, you can't say that, okay, that part was my misinterpretation, because you will hold on to it like crazy because that's who you are. And saying that something was not okay, saying that you are not a good seer or something. And so I would say never put your identity into spiritual experiences, and you shouldn't put your theology dependent on these experiences. I have some experiences that are about the gospel, the finished work of Jesus Christ, and they are like, I teach from them because they are so good. But for example, this one, I only share it to stretch you. And don't make it your theology. Don't draw very serious consequences. Just enjoy this imagery, and let the Holy Spirit speak through it, whatever He wants to speak through it. So you don't necessarily need to find the place of every spiritual experience, and you can keep it on the shelf. I don't know whether this expression makes any sense in English, but in Hungarian I would say that. Put it on the shelf. So don't throw it away like, oh, it was a deception, it doesn't match my theology. But don't say that, oh, it's a new thing, oh, must be God, so I throw everything else I know about God and I'm gonna base my views on God on this experience. So gathering together to pray for the flight of these little souls or spirits would be kind of like a deception, but just to enjoy the sight of this part of the spirit realm. I think that's what these experiences are for, just to entertain us, and more than entertain, reveal something of God's playfulness and loving and kind and a little bit silly nature. Yeah. So that's my point of view on this experience, and dare to see. I advise you to dare to see crazy stuff. If you don't take it seriously, you can see crazy things, and it's not dangerous. Only thing that is dangerous when you see stuff to see stuff. If you see things just to enjoy God, then this is the road that not even the fool will get lost on. And but if you put your identity into it and you try to make your God contraction out of it, then there are dead-end streets everywhere. But if you fully trust God that He's going to take care of you and won't let you get lost in the spiritual realm, and you know that it's a road that is completely safe because He's taking care of you, then you can see the most weird things. If it doesn't fit any other things you know of God, put it on the shelf. He's gonna reveal it. If not, you're free to let it go anytime, because it's not your identity. It's just an experience. Yeah. But I think God's heart is to reveal the weird things. Not for the sake of being weird, for the sake of fun. Just because the spiritual world is very big and He made it for us. Not just the earth was made for us, but the spirit realm as well. So we can explore some parts of it. And yeah. Yes, you can get lost in it, and it can be dangerous, but only if you don't do it just for Jesus. If you do it just for Jesus, there is not an ounce of danger there. You are just free to go. And yeah. God bless you guys. Dare to see. dare to let go, dare to keep them, and don't judge anyone if someone else sees the very same thing very differently. It doesn't mean that you are deceived, it doesn't mean that the person is deceived. The spiritual experiences can be very, very objective, and it's a liquid thing. So it's very flexible. So don't make a teaching out of it. That's how the cults are born. Someone experiences something and interprets it somehow and gathers some people who interpret it in the same way, and then they collectively exclude all the other people who don't experience the same or don't interpret it the same way. So just don't do that. The church is divided enough. Just have fun. Don't take yourself very seriously, especially when it comes to supernatural experiences. But do enjoy it because it's for you. God bless you.